Smoke rose from the ruins like ghosts refusing to leave. Ash-covered streets wound between charred bricks, and silence fell where bells once rang. After the Great Fire of London in 1666, the city had to be reinvented from its bones. But in that silence, something else emerged, a vision. Not just of survival, but of rebirth through beauty, design, and stone. That moment sparked a transformation that shaped not just buildings, but identity. The fire left more than rubble, it left space for visionaries to dream. In the heart of 17th century London, amid grief and ashes, a man stepped forward with parchment and ink. Christopher Wren. He didn't just rebuild, he reimagined. His plans weren't timid. They rose like prayers in stone. From Kensington Palace to Hampton Court, the city found its soul in arches, domes, and perfect symmetry. But nothing captured that spirit, quite like St. Paul's Cathedral. Its dome was not just architecture, it was defiance, a monument to resilience crowned with grace. People came to worship, yes, but also to marvel. Wren's design wasn't meant only for the devout. It was for anyone who had lost something in the fire and needed to believe in what could rise from the ruins. Life then was formal, hierarchical, and devout. Buildings reflected the grandeur of kings, the silence of pews, and the discipline of the streets. Baroque was the architecture of order and divine power. As Londoners navigated powdered wigs, candle-lit evenings and royal decrees, these majestic facades reminded them daily. Beauty could still stand tall, even after everything burned. London was breathing again. The flames had died decades ago, and in their place, a new heartbeat echoed through cobbled streets. It was measured, rational, and red brick. The Georgians weren't rebuilding a city, they were shaping an empire. Townhouses rose in neat rows, not just for lords and ladies, but for merchants, doctors, and thinkers. Property became business, and architecture became profit. Grosvenor Square in Mayfair whispered quiet wealth. Bedford Square in Bloomsbury hummed with books, politics, and pipe smoke. Behind every symmetrical window, life ticked with clockwork precision. Children studied Latin, maids lit fireplaces, fathers read newspapers aloud over tea. These homes were calm fortresses, made to reflect order and refinement in a rapidly expanding world. What defined Georgian London wasn't just structure, it was ambition. You could walk from green garden squares to candle-lit salons without ever leaving the same estate. Estates were city-states, ruled not by monarchs, but by family names carved into stone. And as the countryside shrank into urban sprawl, Londoners stepped into a world where their homes reflected who they hoped to become, not just who they were. White facades shimmered under the weak London sun. In the space between Georgian rigidity and Victorian ambition, there was elegance, soft, theatrical, and full of promise. The Regency era was a short breath of luxury between wars and revolutions, but it left behind curves, crescents, and colonnades that still catch the light today. John Nash, the man behind Regent Street and the Royal Parks, shaped this brief but brilliant chapter. You could stand in Park Crescent and feel like royalty. Every balcony whispered refinement. Every arch promised charm. Regency London was where form flirted with fantasy. The houses wore stucco like powdered wigs, polished but not proud. They didn't shout like Baroque, nor march like Georgian. They swayed. These weren't just homes. They were invitations to imagine, to stroll, to be seen. And behind those immaculate walls, the world was changing. The middle classes were rising, kings were spending, and fashion ruled as fiercely as politics. Balls glittered in candlelight, while newspapers buzzed with scandal. There was less smoke, more perfume. Less certainty, more performance. The city still wore Georgian bones, but now it moved like a dancer, not a soldier. Then came the thunder. Not of war, but of wheels. London roared into the Victorian age, powered by coal, steam, and empire. Every brick laid during Queen Victoria's reign carried ambition, and often soot. St Pancras Station rose like a cathedral to modernity. Tower Bridge swung its Gothic arms over the Thames. London wasn't just growing, it was booming. And in that boom, everyone needed a place to live. The wealthy built red brick palaces with stained glass and tiled fireplaces. The poor moved into dense terraces with shared outhouses and endless laundry lines. Victorian homes weren't just shelter, they were mirrors of a divided city. Behind lace curtains, tea was poured. Behind broken windows, hunger lingered. But all of them had something in common: the promise of permanence. This was a London of contrasts: factories and flower gardens, fog and gaslight, innovation and illness. Even as slums grew in Spitalfields and Whitechapel, the dream of a better life pulled people in. You could read Dickens by firelight and still smell the coal smoke in your hair. And whether you were born in a mansion or a workhouse, the city's architecture told the same truth. London was a place that built forward, no matter the weight of the past. When the smoke of the Victorian age began to clear, the Edwardians stepped into cleaner light. Streets widened, homes breathed. London didn't want to be dark anymore. It wanted space, light, and simplicity. The city loosened its collar, softened its shapes, and left behind the heavy lace and coal-stained bricks. What emerged were larger homes, brighter rooms, and quiet dignity built into every corner. Edwardian houses stood back from the road, surrounded by trees and order. In places like Dulwich and Hampstead Garden suburb, life slowed just enough for roses to bloom by the porch. You could hear birds over horse-drawn carts. These weren't houses of excess, but of reason, with fewer servants, bigger hallways, and stained glass that coloured morning tea with pink and green light. Middle-class families found pride in wide windows and calm routines. But even in this comfort, a shadow loomed. The world beyond London was tense, and everyone could feel the air tightening. The Edwardian era didn't last long, but it clung to a final innocence. People still believed in tradition, in civility, in the idea that life could be gentle. Architecture echoed that hope. One last soft breath before the century changed forever. Then came the jazz. The war was over, the empire cracked, but London danced. Art Deco arrived, not quietly, but with shine and swagger. It was the age of glamour, clean lines, sharp silhouettes, and a futuristic gaze. While the old world mourned, the new world built towers like dreams, sleek, bold, and bathed in chrome. Places like Southgate Underground Station looked more like spaceships than stops. Battersea Power Station rose like a temple of industry, both elegant and unstoppable. Apartment blocks in St John's Wood offered not just shelter, but status. Inside, velvet chairs and mirrored walls reflected a generation unafraid to be seen. These buildings didn't whisper history, they demanded to be remembered. And they were. This was the London of movie theatres, cigarette smoke, silk gloves, and silent ambition. The city was reinventing itself once again, not from ashes this time, but from electricity and style. You didn't need to be royal to feel like royalty anymore. You just needed the right doorway, framed in terrazzo and hope. There were craters, where childhood homes used to be. London once again had to rise from destruction, but this time, beauty wasn't the priority, survival was. After the Second World War, the city filled its scars with concrete and height. Architects didn't dream of domes, they calculated square meters and cost. The Barbican rose from bombed streets like a fortress for the future. Trellick Tower pierced the sky with brutalist intent. These weren't homes built to charm. They were built to last. Life in post-war London was rationed, grey, practical. Children played in corridors that echoed. Mothers hung laundry on balconies where wind had no mercy. And yet, within these walls, families found warmth and beginnings, but not all found dignity. Slums shifted upward instead of disappearing. Hope stacked itself in stories, sometimes 20 floors high. London had survived the Blitz, but the memory of warmth faded under fluorescent light. Still, through these rough forms, a question echoed from every stairwell. What makes a building feel like home? Now the skyline gleams. The Shard cuts the sky. The Gherkin reflects 1,000 windows. London is still building upward, but now with confidence, not necessity. Modern architecture wears ambition like a tailored suit. Glass, steel, and curated luxury stretch across the Thames, reshaping what it means to live in the capital. But with every new tower, something slips further into the fog. The cobblestones, the gas lamps, the whispered memories behind red brick walls, they're being buried beneath investment and innovation. In places like Barking Riverside, the past is paved over by promise. Luxury flats rise where once stood factories and family homes. Today's London is faster, sharper, richer, but maybe lonelier too. Still, the story continues. Every beam of light on a skyscraper's edge reflects the layers beneath it. The echo of footsteps in a Georgian square, the curve of a Regency rail, the soot of a Victorian chimney, they're all still here, just hidden. To walk through London is to time travel without moving. And so London stands, not as one city, but many layered upon each other. A place where time doesn't vanish, it settles into stone. From the ash-dusted domes of Baroque cathedrals to the mirrored walls of modern towers, every corner holds a whisper of what was and a question of what will be. This isn't just architecture, it's memory, identity, and belonging. If these walls could speak, they'd tell you stories of ambition, heartbreak, laughter, and rebirth. And maybe you've lived your own version of them too. So if these stories moved you, if they made you see your city differently, subscribe. Let's keep uncovering the past, one building at a time.